This is the cylinder assembly. You will note that there is an insert in the cylinder, which is like I've got here, actually a piece of UK standard 15mm plastic water pipe. That is 57mm long, which will slide inside there. This has already been assembled, mainly because it is glued into place. Although it is screwed in, it is glued into place, so I can't take that apart at the moment. Once your cylinder has been printed, I would advise, as with the chassis, that this surface here, you'd carry out the same routine as smoothing that out so that there is a good smooth fit with the chassis. So when that is placed into there, you have a very nice fit as far as that is concerned. In order for the insert to work correctly, we need to be able to drill a hole at the end. This is 3 3/4mm in, and I've drilled a 4mm hole, which gives me a little bit of leeway when actually pushing this into here to ensure that this hole lines up with the feed hole at the end of the cylinder. Make sure that when you're cutting this, that you make sure all the burrs are clear before putting it into here, otherwise the piston won't actually slide in correctly. The piston you see here has 3 O-rings on it. This was my first prototype at the time. I have now changed this, that the centre O-ring is no longer there. It is simply 2 O-rings, top and bottom. We're using a standard P7 O-ring for this purpose, which you should be able to get without too much trouble. Let us look at the crankshaft for a moment. This, of course, has got the pin already attached to it, just press fit into that particular hole in the crankshaft. I'd advise when you print this that you print it in that position, again ensuring that the crankshaft itself is as circular as possible. Once completed, we can then look to assemble that ready for the cylinder and piston assembly also. As for the flywheel, printed as you see in that position, you will note that you'll need supports underneath which need to be cleaned off post printing. I have ensured that the clamp here has got a pre-thread in it, taking a 3mm screw in order to be able to clamp that onto the crankshaft. Time to look at the assembly of the crankshaft and flywheel. You'll note there are 2 spaces here. There's a 4mm wide one and a 3mm. The 4mm one goes actually onto the crankshaft prior to going through the bearing housing, as so. Then the 3mm one goes on the other side into there, and which we can then place on the flywheel. You'll note that there is a flat on the shaft itself, which should be able to line up. So, and screwing the screw in here to tighten up onto the crankshaft. Once clamped up, that should spin quite easily, awaiting the assembly of the cylinder and piston. Let us now look at the final assembly. We will need to lubricate some of the parts here. Suggest that we use silicone lubricant, which we'll need to apply both to the face on the chassis and on this face of the cylinder. Probably somewhere around that particular section also, together with where the piston meets the pin on the crankshaft. Most importantly, of course, is some lubricant into the actual cylinder itself to make sure that that slides nice and easily. Once you've applied that, then we can look to assemble this. We'll put the piston in. You need to get that in first before we can put things together. And we need to be able to slide the piston support at the end here together with the end of the piston onto the pin in together to get those to fit quite nicely. Once you've done that, we can then assemble the spring, which details are on the parts list, together with the knurled nut in order to be able to clamp that together. You don't need to clamp that too tightly, just enough to hold that together as a face, which will do quite nicely. That is it in its assembled format. That should spin quite nicely as demonstrated there. I suggest that when you apply air to this, that you start with a low pressure and build that gradually until you're able to get the engine to operate. Far better to do that than blast it with too much air and likely to break something into the process. I hope you enjoyed that. Good luck, and hopefully we can have a look at another version of the WigWag engine in the future. Bye for now.